Welcome to Language Swap, everyone, a fun way to learn English. We are so excited to have you join us today.
Hey, can I tell you something I noticed about myself recently? So, I was in this conversation that was getting a little tense. Someone said something I really disagreed with, and I felt this thing happen, like a kind of heat in my chest. And I almost responded immediately.
Oh, no, but you didn't. You held back?
I didn't. I paused, like genuinely just waited a few seconds, and when I did speak, what came out was so much better than what would have come out 2 seconds earlier.
And what about the other person in that moment?
They actually listened, which I don't think they would have if I'd fired back instantly.
That's the whole episode, honestly.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sally. Today we're talking about the power of remaining calm under pressure and what it actually takes to stay there when everything in you wants to react.
This one's level B1 to C1. If you've ever said something in the heat of the moment and immediately wished you hadn't, this one's for you.
And if you're a little below that level, stay with us. The conversation is a good one.
Quick thing before we start, if you like the podcast, please subscribe and leave us a like. It genuinely helps us reach more people.
All right, let's get into it.
So where does this come from for you? Because I feel like you have more to say about this than I do.
Probably, yeah. I spent a long time being someone who reacted fast, and I thought that was a good thing. Like, I was engaged, I was responsive, I cared enough to respond immediately.
And it wasn't a good thing.
Sometimes it was, but a lot of the time, it just meant I was giving whatever I was feeling in that exact second way, too much power over what I actually said.
So what changed that for you?
There was a specific situation maybe 4 years ago where I was in a disagreement with someone I really respected, and they said something that felt really unfair to me, and I just went in full reaction, full intensity, everything I was feeling right in that moment.
What actually happened when you reacted?
I won the argument and lost the relationship. Like, technically, I made better points, but the way I made them meant the other person shut down completely. And after that, they were just different with me.
That's such a painful outcome, especially with someone you respected.
It took me a while to actually understand what I'd done wrong because I kept focusing on the content, what I said, and not the delivery. Like, I was right, so why did it go so badly?
And the answer was the delivery.
The answer was that being right doesn't actually matter if the other person can't receive what you're saying. And when someone feels attacked, even if they are technically in the wrong, they stop receiving and start defending.
So you basically guaranteed they couldn't hear you.
Exactly. I made it impossible for them to hear me by reacting instead of responding.
What's the difference? Because I think those words get used interchangeably.
Reacting is what happens when you let the feeling go directly to output, like there's no gap. Something happens, you feel it, it immediately comes out of your mouth.
And responding, what does that actually look like?
Responding is when there's a beat in between when you feel the thing and then you choose what to do with it. Even if the gap is only 3 seconds, that gap is where the choice lives.
3 seconds sounds like nothing.
3 seconds is enormous. Seriously, so much can change in 3 seconds if you're actually using them.
What are you doing in those 3 seconds, though? Because I don't think it's just counting.
You're letting the first wave pass because usually the first wave is the most distorted one. It's all emotion, no information. By the second or third second, your brain has started to actually process what happened and you get access to a slightly clearer version of your thoughts.
So the first thing you feel is almost never the most accurate read of the situation.
Almost never. It's the most intense read, but intense and accurate are not the same thing. And most of the damage in conversations happens when people mistake intensity for accuracy.
Mistake intensity for accuracy. I really like that.
I think about it a lot because it explains so many situations where someone reacted really strongly to something that turned out to be a misunderstanding. The intensity felt real, it was real, but it wasn't giving them correct information about what was actually happening.
I want to ask about English specifically because I think there's something here that's really relevant for learners.
Yeah, there's a whole extra dimension.
When you're speaking in a second language and something tense happens, the stakes of reacting without thinking are even higher, right? Because you might grab the wrong word or the bluntness that's normal in your first language comes out harsher in English.
Completely different languages carry different levels of directness. Something that sounds fine in Spanish or Portuguese or Korean can land really harsh in English, especially if you're translating your emotional state directly.
So you might be trying to say, I disagree with you, and what comes out sounds more like you're being ridiculous.
Exactly. Not because you meant to be harsh, but because you went straight from feeling to speaking without the cultural and linguistic translation happening in between.
So the pause is even more important for language learners in heated moments.
So much more important. And weirdly, I think it's actually an advantage available to learners that native speakers don't always use because learners are already slightly slowed down, already thinking about the language, and that natural slight delay can function as the pause.
Oh, that's interesting. The thing that feels like a disadvantage becomes protective.
If you let it, instead of panicking about the fact that you're searching for words, you can use that searching as the gap. By the time you've found the word, the first wave has already started to settle.
I want to go back to the calm piece, though, because I think people hear stay calm and think it means don't feel things or suppress what you're feeling.
Which is not what it means at all, and that version actually makes things worse.
Why does suppression make things worse?
Because suppression is just delay without processing. You hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, and then it comes out somewhere else, usually at the wrong time, usually at the wrong person, usually with more intensity than the original situation deserved.
Like the person who's been calm all week and then completely loses it over something tiny.
Exactly that person. And everyone around them is confused because the response seemed out of proportion, but it wasn't out of proportion to everything they'd been sitting on, just to the specific thing that triggered it.
So what does actual calm look like if it's not suppression?
It looks like feeling the thing fully and choosing not to act on it immediately, not denying it, not pushing it down, just having the feeling and not letting it drive.
That honestly sounds really hard to do.
It is hard, especially at first, because we're trained kind of culturally to think that a strong feeling requires an immediate response. Like, if you don't react, it means you don't care.
But that's not actually true, is it?
Not even slightly. Some of the most powerful responses I've ever seen in difficult conversations came from people who were visibly calm. And because they were calm, everything they said landed differently. It sounded considered, it sounded intentional.
Whereas if you're reactive, even if what you say is true, it sounds emotional rather than considered.
And people discount it. Not always consciously, but they do. They think this person's upset. They're not thinking clearly, even if you're completely right. The reactivity puts a question mark on your credibility.
Calm is credible. That's the whole thing.
Calm is incredibly credible. Calm says, I have thought about this. This is not just what I'm feeling right now. This is what I actually think.
And that's why it wins.
That's exactly why it wins. Not because calm people are emotionally absent. Because calm gives your actual thoughts a chance to be heard instead of being overshadowed by how you're delivering them.
I think what surprises people about this is that calm can feel passive from the inside, like you're doing nothing.
Yeah, and that's such a misconception. Calm is incredibly active. You're making a choice in real time to not let the feeling drive. That takes way more effort than just reacting.
So it looks effortless from outside, but it's actually work.
A lot of work, especially early on, the first few times you do it consciously, it feels almost unnatural, like you're acting.
Does it stop feeling like acting?
It does. Eventually, it becomes a kind of muscle. And then there's a shift where you start noticing that reacting is the thing that takes more out of you, not the pause.
Because reacting has a cost.
A real one. The adrenaline, the regret, the repair work you have to do afterward, whereas a deliberate response usually doesn't leave that mess behind.
I've never actually thought about the cleanup cost of reacting.
Most people don't until they've done enough cleanup. And after a while, you start doing the math. The 3 seconds you save by reacting aren't worth the hours you spend managing the fallout.
That's such a practical frame for it, actually. Not just be better, but this is inefficient.
Exactly. If you're a practical person, just calculate the actual cost of your last reactive moment. The cleanup almost always took longer than the pause would have.
Okay, I want to ask one more thing because I feel like there's a practical piece we haven't said yet.
What's the practical piece you're thinking of?
What do you actually do in the moment? Like, someone says something that hits you, and the heat starts and you need to not react. What's the actual move?
A few things that I've actually found useful, not theoretical, genuinely used. First one, buy yourself the 3 seconds explicitly. Ask a clarifying question before you respond. Can you say more about what you mean by that? Gives you time. And it also sometimes reveals that you misunderstood anyway.
Oh, that's smart. The question sounds engaged, and it also just slows everything down.
And it shifts the dynamic slightly because now they're talking again, and while they're talking, you have a few seconds to actually decide what you want to say.
What else actually works in those moments?
Lower your voice, not dramatically, just slightly. When people are getting activated, their voice goes up in pitch and volume, going the other direction is genuinely calming for you and for the other person.
That's such a specific physical thing, but it makes sense.
It's a signal to your own nervous system as much as it is to them. And the third one, and this is the one that took me longest to actually do, name what's happening instead of reacting to it. I want to be honest, this is hitting me harder than I expected is so much better than whatever the raw reaction would have been.
Because it's honest, but it's also chosen. You're selecting what to share.
Right? You're not suppressing, you're not exploding, you're reporting, and reporting is something calm does and reaction can't.
Okay, word tour time. First word, react.
To react, to respond immediately, driven by feeling without a gap between the trigger and the output.
In today's episode, we talked about reacting versus responding, and how the gap between them is where real choice lives.
You could say, I reacted before I had a chance to think, and I regretted it immediately.
Or, I used to react fast and call it caring. Now I think it was just fear of sitting with the feeling.
Next word for today, intensity.
Intensity, the strength or force of a feeling, which we talked about confusing with accuracy.
In today's episode, we said intense and accurate are not the same thing, and most damage happens when people treat them like they are.
You could say the intensity of what I felt made it hard to think clearly.
Or I mistook intensity for certainty, and I was wrong about what was actually happening.
Next word, to suppress something.
To suppress, to hold something down deliberately to stop it from coming out, not the same as staying calm.
In today's episode, we talked about how suppression makes things worse, not better. The feeling comes out eventually, usually at the wrong time.
You could say I'd been suppressing it for weeks and then it came out completely sideways.
Or calm isn't suppression. Calm is feeling it and choosing not to let it drive.
Next word, and this one matters, credibility.
Credibility, being believable, trustworthy, taken seriously. We talked about how calm actually gives you more of it, not less.
In today's episode, we said that reactivity puts a question mark on your credibility, even when you're completely right.
You could say, staying calm gave everything I said way more credibility than it would have had otherwise.
Or I lost credibility, not because I was wrong, but because of how I delivered being right.
Last word for today, deliberate.
Deliberate, done on purpose, intentionally, with a pause built in before acting.
In today's episode, we talked about deliberate responses versus instinctive reactions, and how deliberate sounds considered and intentional to the person receiving it.
You could say the response felt deliberate and that made it land completely differently.
Or being deliberate doesn't mean being slow. It means the gap between feeling and speaking is yours to control.
So today, react, intensity, suppress, credibility, deliberate.
Okay? Say it better time, let's go.
First sentence, I got angry and said something I shouldn't have.
More precise version, I reacted before the first wave had passed and said something I didn't actually mean.
Next, I tried not to react, but I was still annoyed.
Better version, I held the reaction back, but what I needed wasn't to suppress it. I needed to process it first.
Next, I stayed calm and it worked.
Let's make that more specific. I stayed deliberately calm, and that gave what I said actual credibility instead of just intensity.
Next, He seemed too calm, and I couldn't tell if he cared.
Reframe. His calm felt distant at first, but what I realized later was that he was being deliberate, not detached.
Last one, I always say the wrong thing when I'm stressed.
More useful version, when I'm stressed, I mistake intensity for accuracy, and I react to what I think is happening instead of what's actually happening.
And that's a good place to end.
On the 3 seconds that change everything.
On the difference between calm and cold.
On the fact that the most powerful thing in a tense conversation is often the thing you don't say immediately.
This week, find one moment where you'd normally react fast.
And buy yourself 3 seconds first. Ask a question. Lower your voice. Name what's happening.
Just once. See what comes out on the other side of those 3 seconds.
Tell us in the comments, what's a situation where staying calm changed everything for you? Or where you wish you had? If today's episode made you want to create a little more space between what you feel and what you say, share it with someone who needs the same thing.
And next time things get tense, remember the 3 seconds don't make you weak. They make you heard.
Which is usually what you actually wanted in the first place.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone.
See you in the next one.